Hello and welcome to episode 46, Trades and Chaos Brewing of the Sports Hour Plus with Miller and Watson. We are so excited to be with you guys on this lovely, lovely fall night. It's getting crisp and chilly up here in Connecticut. I know it's still a little warm down in Philly, but getting warmer. We got a lot to talk about today. Lots happened week 4 of the NFL, week 5 of college football. There's a lot going on. So how are you, Kylan?
I'm good. I'm good. This was a pretty chill weekend. Unfortunately the Eagles got, but we were right about that. It was either going to be a close game or a blowout, and we thought it'd be a blowout the other way. But it's better for these things to happen early than late. So
That's fair.
we'll get to the Eagles later. But yeah, pretty chill weekend. Very busy, but what can you do? Less daylight, more work, right?
Yeah, very true. Very true.
But before we get to these sports and stuff, oh, let me ask you, how was your weekend? How was whatever wedding you were at?
It was good. It was good. We were in New York City, so not traveling this weekend. So it was really fun. I got to see a lot of friends from college that I haven't seen in a while. Ceremony was beautiful. So it was really, really enjoyable. It was awesome to see everybody. Just took Metro North into Grand Central, and we were right there. It was great.
Yeah, gotta love local weddings. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're in
Um,
Tampa this weekend and then back in Connecticut the next. And then our wedding tour is finished for 2024.
oh, not Tampa. You saying dirty words to Eagles fans right now? Tampa, dirty word, Tampa. But that's good. That's good. No apple, and you haven't done the apple picking and got the cider and all the
No,
pumpkin spice
no,
yet?
that all starts. That'll be later in the fall. We have not had time. We've not had a Saturday to breathe since August. So it's been a little crazy.
All right. Yeah, you've had a 2024 marriage, weddings. You done world traveled. And before we get to anything else, Morgan had a big announcement over the weekend. Congrats to Morgan and Dan on upgrading from not only being excellent people and great dog parents, but to actually being parents. At
Thank
least
you.
those
Thank
times,
you.
congratulations
Thank
from
you.
my family, from the podcast family, and the people that are gonna watch this later and be like, "What?"
Yes, we are so
This Morgan.
excited. We're welcoming a little baby girl in March. So if you see me yawning, that's why. I'm exhausted all the time. My head hurts all the time, but it's fun and it will definitely be worth it come March. So
Ooh, so
we're used
soon.
to dogs barking, but come March, we might have a baby crying too in the background. So definitely some more fun faces. Thank you, Kylan. Yes, we're so excited. Yeah, it's gonna be crazy. It'll be really fun. We both really are excited to become parents, and something we've been talking about forever. And it's really exciting to see that dream happening.
Well, yeah,
So we're really,
congrats.
really, really excited. Thank you, thank you.
No problem. Now would be the perfect time for that random balloon animation. I don't know how
I
you do
know. What is
it.
it? Is it this? Do I do that? And it does the balloon animation? Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
it is.
We don't
That's
know
it.
why. We don't know why when I hold up the peace sign, balloons come up, but they do.
Yeah.
So we figured that out last week. That is why the balloons come up. I don't have anything set up on my computer for that reason, but we got the balloons and I give the peace sign. So now I know if there's ever something exciting, throw the peace sign up and we got some balloons. But let's get into some sports. Yeah, it doesn't do it on Kylan, so we're not really sure what's going on with that. But oh, sorry. Before we get into the sports, we have to give thoughts and prayers to the victims of Hurricane Helene in North Carolina, Florida, and South Carolina. I think we kind of expected this, I guess, in Florida. Like we knew it was coming to Florida, but the North Carolina, especially the Asheville area, South Carolina, seemingly was more of a surprise and doesn't look like they were able to evacuate or prepare as thoroughly as they were in Florida. So thoughts and prayers to everybody that are in those locations. There are tons of mutual aid and Red Cross and ways to donate. We highly encourage you to, if you have the means to. But we pray that those people are able to get safe. I saw that some electricity is being restored in certain areas. So that's great. We are actually going down, like I said, to Florida for a wedding this weekend, to St. Pete's, where there was quite a bit of damage. Looks like everywhere that we're going for the wedding is safe, and all the family that's down there is safe on our end. But just keep everybody in your prayers. There's a lot of bad, really, really, really bad damage, and just still unable to get supplies in some of these areas. So praying that we're able to get all that fixed in the next week or so.
Yeah, some of that's going to take months. Obviously, we're
Yeah,
praying.
it is
Praying
one of the most
devastating
but it's in
hurricanes.
the the pretty much the second most damaging hurricane that the U.S. has seen since Hurricane Katrina. So, and we know the effects of Hurricane Katrina. So we hope that because of that, we're able to help this infrastructure faster than we were back in, what was it, 2009?
Yeah, 2000,
2000.
early 2000s, somewhere in there. We're old.
Yeah.
But moving right along. Also, don't forget to make sure that you follow us on X/Twitter. Morgan is at M_India_Miller. I am at Colin W. Watson on X/Twitter. Obviously, like we just said, Morgan and Dan are adding another teammate in the thing. So
Yes.
you heard the dogs barking. they're not taking kindly to it apparently. So
No, they are. We've tried to explain to them that they're not going to be the stars of the show come a few months, and they're not taking it well. So,
and our recurring guest Mike is not happy.
Yeah.
All right, but to the biggest story, all right, Maury, I'm gonna let you go first. So, according to Ian Rappaport and Mike Garofalo, however you pronounce that, Davante Adams has informed the Las Vegas Raiders he wants to be traded. Morgan, your reaction to this?
I think that he is kind of a wild card, Davante Adams. We know, him going to Raiders was more for not really because he wanted to go to the Raiders, it was because he wanted to reunite with his college teammate. That didn't really work out. I can't think of his name.
Derek Carr.
Derek Carr. When Derek Carr left, everybody was like, okay, Davante Adams is going to leave. There's no way he's staying. He did stay. And it just seems like nothing has gone right there. They haven't really ever figured it out. I can't really get a flavor on their owner and, if Mark Davis and company are good to work for. I just can't really tell.
Well, Mark Davis is good. He's got the aces and he's got a third. What's she? Your age, 28, 29-year-old girlfriend. He's distracted.
Yeah.
He's distracted.
Yeah, so there's just a lot. I think there's a lot going on. It's Vegas too. It's a hard place to be for an extended period of time if you're not happy. And I mean, like, really, what do the Raiders have? They're not a contender. They, I mean, besides Antonio Pierce, who I think is an amazing or a good coach, an inspiring coach, there's not a lot there.
Of course, the Giants fan is happy with Antonio Pierce. So, of course, the Giants fan is happy with Antonio Pierce.
But I just think there's been a lot of turmoil there, and he's a wide receiver. We've seen it again and again and again. These wide receivers think that they control the league, and they think that and I guess they kind of do. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah, I think here kind of like what you said. I totally agree. Like, you have the Raiders' best weapon, I guess, besides Brock Bowers, who wants out. He doesn't want to be there anymore. I'm kind of surprised he lasted this long. But I guess he finally figured that, there's nothing here but Brock Bowers. Antonio Pierce is a good guy, but he's not really. He's 31 years old. I looked it up earlier today. 31 years old, which is 40 in receiver years. He really doesn't have all that time. He's getting old. So he wants his ring. Now, I don't think that's going to happen anytime soon. I think if he wants a ring, then he needs to vacate to the NFC and not do what I think most people expect, which is run to the Jets and play with what's left of Aaron Rodgers. Because I think, as we just seen, the Jets obviously they need him, but I mean Aaron Rodgers can't spread the wealth with what's his name, Wilson. He's got Wilson right now. That's not working. And I mean, like I told Morgan,
I
outside of
think
the
it's more of a comfortability thing. I mean, he played with Aaron before, and I think that would be the drawing factor, I guess, to him going to the Jets.
yeah, but I mean, if you're what's the dude's name, Wilson, I guess you want out, right? If because Devontae's going to take care of that.
No, yeah, it's so I think you're right. I think that if
Garrett Wilson, like
if they do trade, it will be Garrett. I mean, honestly, they could just do a straight trade, Garrett Wilson for Devontae Adams. You never know.
I mean, I don't think like if you're Garrett Wilson, would you want to go there? I think if you're Garrett Wilson, you try to go somewhere where there's a quarterback. I mean, Devontae Adams doesn't want to be there because there's no quarterback. Why would Garrett Wilson want to go there? So let's get into the next question. I just think that this is a wide receiver looking for a home, and his two options are very cash strapped right now: the Saints and the Jets. Because I mean, like I just said, unless you're doing the straight Garrett Wilson and a bodega for Devontae Adams, there's really nothing the Jets can do. The Jets are pretty. I haven't looked at the financial aspect of
They
this.
don't really have the money to just
Yeah.
pay for him. That's what like.
They don't have the money or the cap space because they've got Aaron Rodgers taking up the majority of it and Garrett Wilson taking up the other half. So like, it's a whole thing. I just think that if I'm the Jets, you're kind of seeing what it looks like right now. I talked about this last time when this comes up every season since he got there, that what's happening is kind of what happened with the Vikings when they tried to do everything to appease Brett Favre and it wound up tanking their future. Like, this is what the Jets are doing. So if they get rid of, let's just say they do get rid of, good God, I just looked up his name. Get rid of Garrett Wilson for Devontae Adams, a 31-year-old receiver compared to a 23-year-old receiver. And then really all you have then is Devontae Adams, Aaron Rodgers. You're praying that the decline that we've seen, only scoring 9 points, being a turnover machine and everything else, doesn't happen anymore. I mean, he's about to be 40, y'all. Like, it's over for Aaron Rodgers. Like, the Jets are just trying to, like, take this and make it more, like, keep this zombie alive. Like, that's just an analogy. I don't actually think he's a zombie, but, like, keep that shell of himself still up operating, and they just need to cut bait to me. Like, the team that should be the teams, just to answer the question, what team should he be traded to? He should be traded to the Buffalo Bills because, again, I don't know how you're Josh Allen. You have nothing to throw to, and all you have is Dalvin Cook's brother and what's his name? Shakir, what's his last name?
I know you're talking about. And Keon Coleman.
Yeah. Okay. Keon Coleman, but and the tight end factory. Like, you're trying to figure out, like, Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams might both be available or they're either traded for each other. You should be telling your Buffalo Bills general manager, apparently either that person's dead or is the most introverted person ever, because we don't ever hear a peep out of this person. So I don't understand how Josh Allen is making all this money, being the underachieving quarterback that he is in the AFC, and all these wide receivers are available, and this man isn't making a stink. I know he's from Wyoming, but come on, bro. Go Yellowstone, bro. You need a receiver because it is getting worse and worse for you. I mean, we're going to get to the fact that they only scored 10 points, which, again, Morgan didn't want to say that they were frauds. I said it last week that the Bills were frauds, and the Ravens proved me correct. Like, he needs a receiver. He needs something other than James Cook. He really does. He needs something other than James Cook, other than Shakir, other than Keon Coleman, other than the tight ends. Like, this is Josh Allen. He should have as much talent around him as Patrick Mahomes. And most of that is because most of those people they drafted. So I don't understand what the Bills are doing. Like, I don't know if it's because no one wants to play in Buffalo. But I don't really understand why the Bills are sitting there at the wheel. Because let me tell you something. If the Philadelphia Eagles can find a way to get Devontae Adams, they would. So I don't understand why the Buffalo Bills aren't doing that. Y'all don't think that that Howie Roseman will find some way to turn Jahan Dotson into Devontae Adams so fast? Like, come on. Like that is what I'm saying. So the number one option should be the Buffalo Bills. The other one should be a team that I always love to slander, the 49ers, because look. Christian McCaffrey is not playing this year, bro. Like he's not he's not playing this year. He's got tendonitis. He's gone to Germany. Everything. The 49ers are lying to their fans and to a lot of people. Like they're not going to say it, but he's not playing this year. This is an injury that he's had forever, and they say it's tendonitis. So I mean, I'm not a medical doctor, but we know that tendonitis usually ends up and like some different surgeries that have to happen to keep that bone alive. So hopefully that doesn't happen to CMC, but he's not playing this year. Same the other weapon, Brock Purdy is looking. I can't slander him too much. He's looked great, missing a lot of weapons. So, but the 49ers are 2-2. They should be looking into this. The Ravens should be looking into this. If you're a contender and you're 2-2 currently, you need to be looking into Devontae Adams because the Jets and the Saints are going to be able to get him. This is perfect for the Bills. But again, maybe they need to hire me as the GM. Pay me his salary because I don't know why the Pagulas are paying whoever they're paying to be the GM of the Bills. Who is the GM of the Bills?
I don't know.
You looking this up as I was talking? I was hoping you were looking this up as I was talking.
Let me see.
Whoever the GM of the Bills is needs to be fired because I don't understand how Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson might both be available, and you're sleeping at the wheel. The
Pagulas, Brandon Bean.
Okay. Well, he needs to be fired because Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson are sitting out here more than likely available, and Buffalo somehow is not in on it.
Yeah. I just don't understand why the Jets are the number one place for him landing. I mean, the odds on favorites for where he's going to land are not, in my opinion, necessarily places that like I figured he needed to go or that really needed a wide receiver, to be honest. I had it up and now it closed. Okay, here it is. So the odds on favorites are the Jets, the Saints, the Steelers, Washington, and the Cowboys.
I mean, other than the Steelers, there's really no team on that list that needs a wide receiver because CeeDee Lamb's going to be unhappy. All these places that they have him going to at the top of your list.
They have a solid QB1.
Yeah, like CeeDee Lamb's not going to be happy because that would make him go from, after just getting to be a number one receiver, now he's clearly would be a number two.
Yeah.
Who else was on that list? You said Saints, Jets,
Steelers, and
Commanders. Probably because Jaden Daniels, I mean, he's good. But McLaurin is the clear number one there.
So. Oh, yeah.
So.
All right. So we're going to move on from Devontae Adams. We will keep an eye on that. Maybe by next week, he'll have a new team. I don't know. Stuff seems to be moving slowly in the NFL. So we're going to move to some NBA stuff. I'm actually going to let Kylan take both of these. At least this first one, because I unfortunately don't know much about him as a NBA player. I know that he was extraordinarily special to people in the NBA community. Thoughts and prayers to his family for his passing, but had a wonderful life and was very, very loved by the community. But I'm going to let Kylan take this one.
Dikembe Mutombo, man. The one-time Nugget, long-time Nugget, couple of times Sixer. Very much a world traveler, 7'2", from the Republic of Congo, one of the trailblazers of bringing Africans and bringing basketball to Africa, right? Like, there's a famous story that, one of his family members couldn't make it to the hospital because the hospital was like hours away. Now, for those of you that don't know, before he got there, the Congo obviously was a very poor country. And, he dedicated some of his money and built the hospital from his NBA salary in where he's from in the city in the Congo, and literally put it right around the corner so everybody can go to the hospital instead of taking the buses or the trains to other parts of the country to go to the hospital. So a devoted humanitarian, really shameful that he once again somebody died of brain cancer, 58 years old, relatively young in comparison, but it's very unfortunate. Dikembe Mutombo has a great legacy. Didn't win a ring, but has a great legacy. Those of y'all remember him from that Progressive commercial. No, 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 no. He became the more recent memory because of that. And just what a great basketball player. What a great human being. And it's a sad time in basketball because it's another death. We've had some big, if you're a basketball fan, big recent deaths over the last 2 years. Bill Walton, a couple of really great basketball players, Bill Russell. It's just been a death. Seems like every these last few years because these basketball legends are getting older. Not him, he was 58, but usually it's like 80, 90. But Jerry West died earlier, 70s. It's just like seems to be a bad time for basketball legends because they're getting older. Obviously, with Dikembe Mutombo being an exception, but Georgetown player, this is the one time where Syracuse alum, I'll give Georgetown their due. Very great player for them. Legacy player. I think his son went to Georgetown as well. This topic is very serious. I won't do the joke that I know all Syracuse alums are thinking right now, but we will leave this alone because this is a serious topic. But I am of the mindset that the Dikembe Mutombo was a great player, a great achiever, a basket, somebody who was 7'2" from the Congo, and has done so much. His foundation. They say he adopted, was it his brother-in-laws, and his wife's sister died. So he adopted all six of those kids. So he was funding he had four of his own kids and six of their cousins. So 10 kids and one big house on top of the kids that he already had. So, I mean, I don't think anything says more about him than that he was always willing to take care of other people. What a great legacy he leaves. Very unfortunate that he passed away, and obviously a really big loss for any basketball fan, but especially for Africans, because he's one of the trailblazers of making basketball popular in Africa. So, like I said, Mutombo's legacy is more as a great humanitarian. I mean, most people will remember him for the blocks, for the no no nos, and the progressive commercials and everything else. But I mean, just a great human being, and I think that's all you can say about these players is great human beings, great person. He really left an impact on people, and that's what you want. And the fact that his legacy will hopefully continue. Like I said, prayers and thoughts to his family, his sons, and everything else, who I think are also playing ball. So, what a great human being, and what a great thing to say. Very unfortunate losing your life to brain cancer, but at least he made an impact for the short time that he was here. Anything to add, Morgan? Are you good?
No, that was beautiful. Very, very well said.
All right. So moving right along to the other more controversial figure that died a few days ago, Pete Rose. I'm gonna let you go here first.
Yeah, Pete Rose is one of those hard ones. Baseball seems to have a ton of these guys that were amazing players, managers, people surrounding the sport who get themselves caught up in controversy, whether it's steroids, whether it's gambling, whether it's a million other things. Pete Rose, probably one of the more infamous managers, I guess you could say, was caught betting on games that he managed. He claims he only bet on them to win games, but they gave him a lifelong ban for that. I think you can go either way. Some people think he should be in the Hall of Fame. Some people think this, that. I heard some people talking that he was given a lifelong ban and his life is now over. So will they put him in the Hall of Fame? He has said he did not want to be in the Hall of Fame after he died because it was supposed to be a celebratory thing for him and his family. again, obviously, thoughts and prayers. It's always horrible when someone passes, but again, he did have a wonderful life and seemed to have a lot of fun doing it. Even if that meant not, I guess, playing by all the rules that everyone else played by.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing we can say about Pete Rose is he um he a very controversial figure, off more off the baseball field than on it. A very great player, played for the Philadelphia Phillies. A lot of Phillies fans that loved Pete Rose, loved the way he played. But very unfortunate between the gambling. There's also like some sexual assault stuff as well with him from like the 80s. With him, it's kind of like somebody who is like I'm fond of saying, like you only know what people show you when it comes to these famous people, specifically athletes. So we don't really know the person behind the athlete. This is a rare time where it seems like the athletic persona was better than the actual person behind it, right? Like Pete Rose, for all of his faults, a great baseball player, done in by, like I said, the way he was as a person. I mean, I gambling on your stuff. He knew better, but he did it. Probably thought he wouldn't get caught. It's a whole thing to like be that type of person, basically screw yourself over in the end. And like he knew he was never getting in. For real, for real. I know some people want him in, but I just don't like. It's basically what you're saying is all right. He wasn't good enough to get in because he bet on games, but the betting still is going to be there whether he's dead or alive anyway. So I mean, you can do a posthumous thing. I've always said that the Baseball Hall of Fame is the most elitist sports Hall of Fame there is because, like, you have these bunch of old time baseball writers. No offense to you, baseball writers who watch this show, but you have these old time baseball writers who act like they're the Ivy League of sports because they try to keep people out during the popular era because of personal slights, right? We're going to get to a media member that's battling because of their bias and personal slights in a minute. But, like, I'm of the mindset that they don't want steroids guys in there, even though that period during when Morgan and I were growing up was the high point of baseball. Like baseball will never be as popular as it was back in the late 90s, early 2000s, like because there are no personalities like that. There are no Sammy Sosa's, Mark McGuire's, there aren't any Barry Bonds anymore in baseball. Like we love Mike Trout, but he's not that bigger than life personality. Leader is Otani, like somebody, Shuhei Otani and Mike Trout could probably walk by a lot of people today, and no one would probably know who they are because they don't have a bat in their hand. So, like, I'm of the mindset that, Pete Rose was a larger than life person, athletic persona, but, the person behind the athlete was kind of bad. And, like, that in no way am I saying that he deserved to die or anything like that. But, I'm of the mindset that he was a great baseball player done in by, dumb mistakes. And I think that's his legacy, right? Like, great baseball player, great on the field person, but the person behind that was just somebody who was very questionable, very, did a lot, screwed himself over. And he's very, very reminiscent of that era of baseball. People who were larger than life, but largely, took the. I don't know if the fame got to his head. I don't know, obviously, because neither one of us were alive when this happened. I don't know what led him to bet on baseball games. So, but he was done in by his own tragic mistakes. I think that's his legacy. Great baseball player. Okay, the questionable person.
Yeah, I think that's all very fair. Very, very, very fair.
All
All
right.
right, so we're gonna move on to some.
Will,
Yeah, Carl Anthony Towns traded to
where
the
were
New York Knicks.
where were you on Friday night when this happened?
I was actually at a high school football game.
Were
Woo!
you dancing? Were they not you?
My girls were dancing. Yeah. How are you feeling about this?
I think I have more I think this is a trade where I think both teams lost at the same time. I think this is one of them trades where I think that, like, obviously the Knicks got better very, very instantly. They got Karl Anthony Towns. They got rid of their Julius Randle, for lack of a better term, problem. and now they have somebody whose game I think meshes a lot better with OG, Mikal, and Jalen, and then the Dante DiVincenzo got traded out. I think that says a lot about what I was saying, that the power of friendship is great until you're the one person of the four with a ring, and they're telling you you got to be the sixth man, even though you've got a ring and the rest of these people don't. so, I think that, or I should say rings, because I think I know he's got one with Golden State. I think he's got one with Milwaukee as well. So he's got rings, and so I know that Dante DiVincenzo's representation has said, he loved, put this in quotation marks whenever it comes from people's representation. He loves being with his friends at Villanova, and in no way was he trying to sabotage. Was he trying to get out of New York because he wanted to be a starter? But that's his right. I think Dante. I think that that's the biggest loss in this trade, Dante DiVincenzo and Randall, because now the Knicks have even less depth. They have the Grim Reaper as their coach, Mr. Tom. I'll run everybody into the ground, Thibodeau. So I just think for the Knicks, like, it's a great flashy move. I think it still squarely puts them as the third team in the East behind the Boston and Philly. But I just am of the mindset that this was a good enough trade for the Knicks. I mean, it makes their offense a lot better. There's a lot of trade-offs defensively that I don't think having Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges, and Jalen Brunson will solve. I think that they now have a rebounding and a bench problem. But, I think that this is great for the Knicks. I kind of wonder if Minnesota is slowly but surely giving up on the pursuit of a championship, or they just think that Anthony Edwards is going to take a leap that only I think he's going to take, like a generational superstar type leap, like a Joel Embiid level 50 a night leap, because that's the only way that this makes sense. Bringing in Julius Randle when you had the one of the best 1-2 punches outside of Philly. So I just am on the mindset that I think this is a trade where both teams lose in the long run. Now, Knicks fans will hate me for this because they love that they have Karl Anthony Towns. I don't see that being a lineup that would scare you in the playoffs. I mean, I think that there's a lot to be seen with to be sure with this, but I definitely think it makes the Knicks a championship contender. I would clearly put them as the fourth team, probably fifth team even. Like, if I'm Boston, the Sixers, OKC, Minnesota, I still think Minnesota's a better team than them, and then the Knicks. But yeah, they're a championship contender on paper. Um, that's where I am on this as far as from the Knicks side. You got anything?
No, that's all. You covered it.
All right. So what are the Minnesota Timberwolves doing? That was my biggest question when I saw this trade. Like, it's great for the Knicks, but what are the Timberwolves doing? Like, I know you want
Do you
shooting.
think
Right?
this means that they're trying to set up a rebuild? What like is, or is it who do you think they're after? Because I'm assuming that that's like a salary cap type of deal. Karl Anthony Towns didn't necessarily want to be there, but what do you think is the end goal for them?
I think the Timberwolves are trying to solve a problem that is a problem of their making. I said a few months or a year ago that eventually they would trade either Rudy Gobert or Karl Anthony Towns. I thought they would trade Rudy Gobert because I just could not imagine them getting rid of Karl Anthony Towns, somebody in his 20s, and you've got, Anthony Edwards. You had two superstars in their 20s. Like, you had the dream, all right, if you're the Timberwolves. And I think what they're really saying is, like, they're they're admitting their mistake when they traded those heck of a picks, plenty of picks for Rudy Gobert. And I guess they thought maybe having Rudy Gobert clogging up the lane is better for Anthony Edwards and Julius Randle than for Karl Anthony Towns. But I just think that, on Karl Anthony Towns' sake, like, he sacrificed his health, came back early, like, was still one of their best players in the playoffs, only for them to trade him and not tell him until he had to find out on Twitter, like the rest of us. So, like, I just think it says a lot more about Minnesota and the way they do things. I think this is cheap owner, especially in Minnesota, cheap owners, and we know that there's a whole power struggle between Laura Rodriguez and the current owner of the Timberwolves. But I think this is a vengeful owner who's going to lose this battle. screwing over the future owners. And I also think that ultimately in doing this, he's going to screw over any chance Anthony Edwards has of staying in Minnesota. Because I just don't know. I feel like what they're trying to do is like just have Julius Randle be there. He shoots more. He's not in the paint. He's not clogging it up. But I just still feel like, I feel like Minnesota was solidly there competing for a title right there with OKC. And now I have to put them as the third team in the West. Now I have to put the chaotic Denver Nuggets back up there as the second team because I just think that not having Karl Anthony Towns is just a huge loss because I mean, you saw it. That's the having Karl Anthony Towns was the sole reason that they beat the Nuggets because Nikola Jokic had to be out there and not clogging up the paint with Rudy Gobert. And they really didn't have that 1-2 punch that they had in the playoffs to deal with Nikola Jokic. Now Jokic just gets to feast on Rudy Gobert, maybe Julius Randle, but we know Julius Randle isn't really a defensive maven. So it's a whole thing, and I think that unless Anthony Edwards makes a generational leap, that he'll be looking for a new team relatively soon. Unless you're telling me these rumors about Zion Williamson leaving New Orleans is true, and even that doesn't make me feel good if I see a Julius Randle, Anthony Edwards, Zion Williamson, Rudy Gobert lineup either. Now, to my New Orleans Pelicans fans, because some of y'all take what I say as gospel. I have no sourcing on this. I don't think that Zion Williamson is going to end up in Minnesota. But let me just say that before I get all these texts and calls and messages later on tonight or tomorrow when people see this about do I know something? No, I don't know anything as far as Zion Williamson and whether he's staying. I'm just hint. I have no idea, but I'm usually right about these things. So I would just say y'all just better hope that he don't end up in Minnesota. But I just think that, like I said, a lot is on Anthony Edwards. So I hope he takes that generational leap. Because I think that he's not going to stay in Minnesota now because the number one reason to stay to build something with Karl Anthony Towns is gone. So I don't know if you're Anthony Edwards, if you want to stay. We know that he has a very, very good budding relationship with Joel Embiid. So I don't know, but I know if I'm the Minnesota Timberwolves and I've seen how what happens, like Joel Embiid being really, really close friends with your superstar is not a good thing for you. So I would just say that it's not looking good if you're a Minnesota Timberwolves fan that Anthony Edwards is going to stay past when this next contract extension is up. I just can't see it. I can't see him looking at that and thinking that's a title contender with him, Randall, and Rudy Gobert. I don't think that's a title contender. I know the Timberwolves are a deep team. Like some Timberwolves fans who never liked Cat will say, well, we got Nas Reed, so we got Cat on a cheaper contract. But again, I think this is a combination of a billionaire being cheap, wanting to screw over the future owners of his team, and like just not really even caring about title contention. I think this is more about an owner being cheap and this is kind of like what the Cincinnati Bengals are doing. By being cheap is going to screw over the franchise in the long run.
Yeah.
I say all that to say, count your days, Minnesota, because you won't have Anthony Edwards much longer, and it might coincide with Justin Jefferson leaving because we know he ain't gonna be there much longer either. So I'm of that mindset that Minnesota might lose a lot of their dominance very, very soon. But moving right along, Joel Embiid said he has lost 25 to 30 pounds over the summer. Morgan, your reaction to this?
I always think that it's good when players can get down to more of like a healthy playing weight. It's 30 extra pounds that you're carrying around. I have not seen pictures of him. I mean, is this true? Have we seen proof of this? I don't know.
They just put pictures of him up a couple of weeks ago. He looked mighty slim, but also, I mean, he looked slim starting the playoffs. So I think this weight loss is probably a combination of what happened when he was rehabbing and he continues to rehab, and also a combination of playing in Paris, like playing
Yeah.
serious basketball over the summer, which is why I wanted him to play serious basketball instead of just playing pickup games and nursing his knee injury. Because y'all, a lot of people who know me, and Morgan knows this, I'm not a big believer in basketball players, especially big ones, needing to lose weight because they play basketball and they're going to lose weight naturally anyway. They run up and down. It's not soccer. It's not baseball. They run up and down the court for 48 minutes for 82 games, 82 plus games a season. So I'm not a huge believer that
The
a weight
the
loss for that.
advantage is on your knees, on your ankles, especially when you are rehabbing from an injury, to not re-injure yourself.
Right,
Which
and I totally buy that. But when you're 7'2", when you're taller than most regular human beings, and
that's also true.
you're already skinny enough, I don't buy like I feel like that would make more sense if he was an offensive lineman, but he's not. Like I think that Joel Embiid looked mighty good during the Olympics when they let him play. And I think that it was good to see him play serious basketball, win something. And I think if Slim Bead is around and he's feeling better, and he's my big thing with this is not about the weight. It's just about him trusting his knee and his leg. Like as somebody who also broke a knee broke a leg part. Like the hardest part is trusting. I broke my femur. He broke an MCL. But the hardest thing is trusting that body part, and that's not going to come with you losing weight. That comes with. That's why I wanted him to play ball to get the beast to get that monkey off his back. Trust your leg, trust your knee. I think he had a scare with facing the Knicks. He tried his best, but I don't think you ever overcome the scare that he had. And I think playing serious basketball over the past few months helped him out with that. And I think the Sixers getting Paul George and doing everything that they do to make sure that they take that off of him has been great. But I think that a slimmer and more. My thing isn't even about him being slim. My whole thing is, are you trusting? And this is a question that no one's answered because I think this was the problem last in that Knicks series. Do you trust? No one's asked him this question. I think it's because people don't want to. But if I was in that room, I'd be like, now, Joel, do you trust your knee? Because that's the question of the hour. Like, you can lose as much weight as you want, and I hope he continues to lose weight. But the big question is, I'm not as tall as him, but I did a similar thing. Like when you break a leg part, a knee part, the key once you get surgery, once you rehab, is trusting it. And Morgan knows this as a former basketball player too. As a basketball player, when something is wrong with your knee, your ankle, your leg, it's a hard thing to trust because that's the whole thing about basketball. You got to jump, you got to shoot, you got to have your lift. And if you don't have that because you're not trusting your body part, then that's a different issue than dropping weight. Like, I'm happy for him. I'm happy that he wants to be slimmer. He's about to have a daughter on the way. Breaking news for those of you that don't know that. Morgan and Dan are not the only ones bringing a daughter in this world. So, he's about to have a daughter. He's about to be a two-time father. But I'm of the mindset that it's about trust, but I'm happy for him if he's confident about his weight loss. And he seemed to be moving better in the summer. So, I mean, if that helps him, if the weight loss helps him have more confidence in his surgically repaired knee and leg, and the knee brace is off. So, if he has confidence in that leg that it won't break again, and obviously, like we say, you can never guarantee this thing, but like it's basketball, stuff happens. But if he's confident and he trusts his leg and knee, then that's more of what I'm concerned about than this weight loss. But I'm happy for him. And for the Sixers fans that are like, oh my goodness, he lost weight, for people that pay attention to this because they think some mile away, even though they never made it to this level of basketball in their lives and make it past middle school or high school, but they somehow revel in the fact that this man is a height and has reached heights that you'll never reach. You're not 7'2", but for some reason you're playing Jenny Craig trying to weight watch a 7'2", person who does things on a basketball court you could never do. But for people who look like that, that's great for them. But my whole thing with this, as somebody who's a Sixers reporter, a fan of the team, I just want to see Joel be healthy. As long as he's confident in his surgically repaired knee and leg, that's the battle right there. The weight loss is secondary to me.
Yeah, that seems fair.
Yeah, so it's keeping Joel Embiid healthy the number one priority for the Sixers this year. It should be, but a lot of that depends on Joel Embiid. Now he's saying all the right things right now. He's saying he doesn't care about accolades. He wants to be an All Star. Let's be real here. He'll make the All Star team. He wants to be an All Star. He's got his MVP, so obviously he doesn't care about that anymore. But for me, I think that's the number one priority. But I mean, I'm not. Because I'm an actual serious. I want the best basketball product ever, especially with this new contract the NBA has coming up. Like, I don't think they should be resting him. I think he should play. If he's ready to play and he's healthy, he should play. I don't think they should be doing any rest days for him. I know he's older, but he needs to play. Like, he missed 5 months of basketball. He needs to play as much basketball as he can. Now, I know I'm a different Sixers fan than most people, but I'm taking that hat off. I want to see Joel Embiid playing some serious basketball, playing in meaningful games. That's why I wanted him to play in Paris. That's why I want him to play all 82 plus games. I am not of the mindset with Nick Nurse and Daryl Morey. I think if he should play, he should play because when Joel Embiid misses games, he gets rusty and then it looks bad. We don't need that. Um, you know, as a reporter, as a fan of the team, we don't need that. What Joel Embiid needs to do is play. You can skip scrimmages, you can do what you're doing right now in training camp, but play. Preseason games, it don't matter. But I want to see Joel Embiid, like, he's played 70 games. I want to see him make it as close to 82 as possible. You know, I want to see him playing in games because I think the better he plays in more meaningful basketball, the better it will be in the postseason. And with a new big three, obviously he's played with Tyrese Maxey, but we're trying to get Paul George ingratiated into the team, sharing that scoring load. They need to play as much as they can together because you do not want a Phoenix Suns situation with the Sixers. You want them playing as many meaningful basketball games as they can together. Yes, that should be the number one priority, and that's Daryl Morey and Nick Nurse's job to keep Joel Embiid healthy. But as a journalist, as somebody who's seen Joel Embiid for 9+ years playing in Philadelphia, I want to see him play as much meaningful basketball as his body will let him play.
Yeah. I think that's all you can ask for a fan of a team, a fan of a player.
Yeah. And the reporting, I think we all want to see Joel Embiid play ball. Like, I don't think anybody,
Yeah.
unless you're a bitter New York fan, I don't think anybody wants to not see Joel Embiid play ball because he's he is no. Let me stop. Let me not lie here. He is one of the best players that play basketball. He's the most entertaining. He's the most larger than life NBA player currently going. He needs to play and be a part of it because I think he's missing a lot of money by missing games and not showing that larger than life troll personality that he has.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the closest MB. I'm just saying this, right? When Adam Sandler, because people don't know this, like Uncut Gems, Joel Embiid was supposed to be the basketball player in that movie. It was not supposed to be what's his name. It was supposed to be Joel Embiid, but he turned it down. Joel Embiid is one of the few people I know that would turn down hanging out with Adam Sandler for nothing else. So I think it says it all right there. When Adam Sandler wants you as his co-star and you say no, I think that says a lot about Joel Embiid and his star power. The Baltimore Ravens beat down the Buffalo Bills. I called it. Morgan wanted to believe that that it was different for Josh Allen, but this is what happens when he plays the best top 3, top 5 defense. This is what always happens. It wasn't really pretty for the Eagles, but the one thing that they could say is they outscored Josh Allen this past week, 16 points in comparison to 10. So I'm gonna let you go, Morgan. What happened? What had happened was what happened.
Yeah, I mean they just couldn't get anything working on offense. Their defense didn't look terrible. They started out kind of rocky, and I think they just dug themselves a hole that they couldn't get out of. And just nothing was clicking on offense. Josh Allen had some beautiful passes that were dropped, and you know, he needs some help. Unfortunately, he cannot do everything by himself. Um, and this is when you really are missing a veteran wide receiver one for sure. And I mean, when I don't know how if any team is going to be able to really stop Derrick Henry when he gets running like that. If we're going to be honest.
Yeah, but that's what I told anybody that would listen at the Bills. They're obviously a great team. I play around a lot. They're a good team, but they're a very flawed. They're one of the flawed. They were one of the flawedest. I just made up a word there. Flawedest for undefeated team there, and that was saying a lot, right? And they got shown, right? The Ravens finally figured out that the best offense is, if you're not going to run Lamar Jackson, is to either let him throw the ball or run Derrick Henry down people's throats. So that's good. I mean, we kind of figured that the Ravens, they kind of got a raw deal starting their season off against the Chiefs. And they kind of got screwed after that, getting the Raiders. Obviously, this was more of a them problem than a Raiders problem, but then losing to the Raiders. But those are games outside of the Chiefs game. Like, if you're really looking at it as a Ravens fan, you should be at worst 3-1 right now, but you're 2-2. So I am of the mindset that this was always going to happen to the Bills, because the Ravens, Lamar Jackson was not going to miss out on a chance to show who the best who the second or third, whatever you want to put it, who the best quarterback in the AFC is, out not named Patrick Mahomes. He missed it against Patrick Mahomes. He wasn't going to miss it against Josh Allen and what's left of the Bills defense. So I mean, it was always going to be this way. The Ravens are a buzzsaw. They're pissed off, and the Bills got what happened when you see the Ravens after they lose against the Chiefs and lose against the Raiders, and then win a game, and they just needed. The Ravens were due for one of these games where they just dominated in all aspects of the game, and that was the Bills, because, like I said, they have nothing other than James Cook. They have nothing. Morgan wants to be respectful of Keon Coleman, Shakir, and all these other people, but other than James Cook, there's nothing on that Bills offense besides Josh Allen that scares you. And they're not going to run Josh Allen 30 times, so you don't really have to worry about that. If you do your job, and I will say that, I saw, uh, you know, Josh Allen with that fadeaway throw that somehow made it to Shakir, and it wasn't a touchdown somehow. But I am of the mindset that Josh Allen is great. He's a superstar talent, but the Bills are not built to maximize his talent, because Brandon Beane and the Pagulas and everybody else needs to either fire themselves, fire that GM, because I don't understand how you waste Josh Allen this much. Like, I have no sourcing on this, but I am pretty sure that Josh Allen will not be there when his contract is up. But as far as this game goes, good Ravens. This is the Bills getting shown. I mean, Morgan said last week that this was going to be reality check week for a few teams, and the Bills got that reality check that you are not them. So, and you need to do, like I said, Garrett Wilson and Devontae Adams are available, and Brandon Beane, the assistant GM, they need to do something. I don't know what they need to do something.
Yeah, and I mean, realistically, it's only going to get harder with Von Miller out. So they got to make some changes. Um, they got to get some more powerful, more veteran players in there, I think.
Mm-hmm. Are the Bills really a title contender? I'll start here because you went first. No, I think I said this. No, 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 no. I mean, unless Patrick Mahomes gets injured, unless Lamar Jackson gets injured, unless what happened to the Dolphins happens to the Ravens and the Chiefs, there is no way that the Bills are a title contender in the AFC. Like I said, it takes a lot to box with the God QB and the second guy QB in the AFC, which is Lamar Jackson and Patrick Mahomes. It takes a lot to outduel them, and Josh Allen doesn't have it. So, I am of the mindset that until they get Josh Allen some help, the Bills will never be a title contender. And I'm sorry, Bills Mafia, but y'all need to start putting instead of putting pressure on tables, y'all need to put pressure on your owners. And because clearly, I mean this with all due respect to her, because what's her name? Jessica Bagula seems like a great person. But instead of them putting money into her tennis career, they need to do something with their team and figure out how to get their best asset some help. So not until that happens.
Yeah, I mean, I that I disagree a little bit. I definitely think that they are a contender. I don't think you can ever count out Josh Allen. I think that if his rookies get a little bit more consistent, and they stop dropping the ball, then there is a chance. But it's definitely a harder path for them than some of these other teams. We're going to kind of talk about in a few minutes kind of the top teams in the NFL. And I think that if they're playing at their highest capacity, they can be one of those top teams. Unfortunately, it's a little bit hit or miss per game. They got to get a little bit more consistent.
Okay, see, that's the positive. That's the good cop over there on the left. I'm going to give you the reality.
Yeah.
He's practicing.
So we're going to move on. We're going to move on to Kylan's team. I mean,
do we
I don't know how you can be shitting on the Bills when the Eagles are your team, buddy.
I can do you can do that when your team wins a Super Bowl in this decade. You can do that. But I mean the Eagles are, that game was very reminiscent of what happened against the 49ers. The Eagles missed a lot of plays. They got out toughed. It did not look
injuries. They have a lot of injuries right now.
Yeah, they're an injured team. The Eagles are suffering just like the 49ers from what happens when you make a Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl. You have a lot of turnover post the Super Bowl, and you get into Florida during a rare time of the year where apparently the weather is like Phoenix, Arizona. So I mean, this is what happens when you get cramps and stuff. And obviously, I'm criticizing a lot of people who have played more meaningful football games to my zero, but I don't understand how a lot of people can excuse the current quarterback that we just talked about while they're out here. You want to talk about crapping on people. I mean, Jalen Hurts, you would think that he died or something, the way most people are saying, he's a fraud. He doesn't deserve that contract. And I'm like, A.J. Brown wasn't there. Devontae Smith wasn't there. And if he makes that pass to Saquon Barkley, if he gets better protection from Saquon on that fumble that happened, there's a lot going on there. There's a lot broken with the Eagles right now, but they have a bye week. It's a good thing they had an early bye. They're 2-2. It's not the end of the world. But they have some things to fix, and good thing for them that when they come off this bye week, they get the Cleveland Browns, and then next after that, they get the Giants. So I think this will be a lot different at 4-2 in 3 weeks than it will be in a minute. But the Eagles have a lot to fix, and Nick Sirianni is coaching for his job. I mean, no sources.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. I think Nick Sirianni is absolutely coaching for his job. Here's the only nice thing I will say about the Eagles, because I think they are a dumpster fire right now. I think that this was what happened this is normally how the Eagles look at the end of the year. The best that you can hope for is that they're falling apart now and will somehow be able to come together and turn the season around versus what they've done the past couple seasons, which is fall apart towards the end of the season. Obviously, starting out strong is really important, but it's definitely better to if you have to either start the season or end the season rough, you'd rather start the season rough and end the season strong. So that's where you as Eagles fans have to be looking, that maybe we'll pull it together and we'll be winning towards the end of the season. But until they get this injury problem fixed, they were using Saquon really well. They used him really well the first game, and I just feel like they have been putting him in situations that he isn't known for being good at. Like Saquon's not known for being a great catching running back. There's some
I mean,
circumstances.
it's not like y'all threw him the ball. Y'all just wanted him to run with no
Yeah,
offense.
no, I know, but he has a lot of drops as a running back. Even and I even the little chunk passes, he has some drops there. So, I think that there's a lot of room for improvement, and it's not one big thing. It's a lot of little things, which sometimes can be harder, but sometimes can be easier to fix if you go little by little.
Like I
But
said,
moving,
the good thing for the Eagles is they get to play the Browns and your Giants, so they'll be all right.
yeah. So I think honestly, I think we kind of just covered what needs to change for the Eagles to contend in the NFC. I think we kind of just went over that. They need to get these injury problems under control. Find the ways to use new weapons because some of their really strong weapons are injured. And it's a new team. They don't have Jason Kelsey. They are still working out some of the kinks. I wouldn't push the panic button yet, but the panic button has been taken out of the drawer and is on the desk, but I wouldn't push it yet.
I would say this. I mean, you're 2-2. There are a lot of teams that are 2-2. The frauds, I laughed at the Commanders last week, but they're 3-1. They'll come down. There's a lot of teams that are frauds that are on top of the division right now.
Yeah.
And once their schedule starts getting tough, they'll do this. But for the Eagles, you're 2-2. So are the 49ers. So are the Ravens. The Chiefs are looking like they're about to come down too with the Rashee Rice injury. So it's not the end of the world. And I think that there are a lot of people making a lot about Jalen Hurts' interceptions when Patrick Mahomes leads the league in interceptions. I know a lot of people, including Shannon Sharp, have been lying a lot about Jalen Hurts this week. It's either lying or pure ignorance. But like, if you actually look at the stats, and I know Morgan has done this, it's Patrick Mahomes that leads the league in interceptions,
Yeah.
following Sam Darnold. Jalen Hurts is like top 10, but he's not number one. There's a lot of people lying this week about Jalen Hurts' turnovers. It is a problem, but a lot of that is more it's him doing too much, but it's also the fact that there are a lot of times where the Eagles where he has made the right decision and his receivers have let him down. And that's what it is. But that's the game when you're the quarterback and you're making all that money. Speaking of people being let down by receivers and stuff, Minnesota Vikings beat the Green Bay Packers. So they're 4-0. Sam Darnold has looked like his USC self. And they beat Jordan Love coming back. The Green Bay Packers kind of made a game of it late, so did the Eagles, but the Green Bay Packers made it a little bit closer. I mean, I don't know. I think that this says that Sam Darnold is great for right now for the Vikings, but he's not him. I said this about Buddy in North Carolina before Jaden Daniels got here. Sam Darnold, you're not him. You're just him. You're just him for right now. But when the schedule gets a little tougher for the Vikings, they'll be shown for the frauds that they are too, and they might end up number 3. Like I said this. Kystradamus over here. I said that if the Eagles and 49ers faltered, that the Vikings would be right there to pick up the pieces if they got good play from Sam Darnold. Morgan remembers me saying this, and they've gotten it right now. But the Vikings, they did a good job beating up on the injured Packers. I think no one needs a bye week more than the Packers. They got Jordan Love back, but still looks a little shaky just because Jordan Love missed a few weeks. I think they would have been better off playing Malik Willis and giving Jordan Love another week. But
Yeah,
they
so
wanted.
so I was gonna say just kind of within there. I don't know why they played Jordan Love. He obviously was not himself. Um, I don't know if Jordan Love insisted on playing. Malik Willis was doing fine. There was no need to
Jordan Love.
rush Jordan Love back. Looks like he may have not completely re-injured himself, but he got banged up in the game quite a bit. And
Yeah, that offensive line is not dumb.
so and kind of I don't necessarily agree that the Minnesota Vikings are frauds. I was interviewing a coach today, and I was asking them about non-conference games, non-league games, how they handle those, and he told me that they look at them the same way that they look at conference games because hey, sometimes it was for hockey, and he said sometimes you never know how the puck's gonna bounce, and you might get a bad bounce in a league game that costs you the league championship. And you want to make sure that you're still that number 2 team to get in. So you got to beat all those non-conference teams too. And I was like, that's a really, really good way to put it. You never know when you're going to get a double doink. You never know when you're going to get a torrential downpour rain and the ball is going to slip through your hands and have a strip sack fumble for a touchdown. You never know. So anytime you can get those wins is really important. And starting out 4-0 for the Vikings is awesome. Yeah, I'm not saying they beat the hardest teams ever, but you only can beat who's in front of you. And as of now, they have not shown. There's been no reason for them to show me that they think that they're frauds. I think that they have a really good shot of winning their division. And I think that Sam Darnold has taken what he's learned in a lot of these different places and brought them to a place that believes in him, has weapons for him to use, and an offensive line that gives him a little bit of time to throw the ball. So I think it's kind of a perfect storm for them.
Yeah, I mean, but I still think that they're not like. Here's what I mean when I say that they're frauds. Like they're obviously good enough to be a playoff team, be the number 2, number 3, probably end up 3 or 4 seed in the NFC. But they're frauds, meaning that they're not a title contender. Like they're a playoff team that'll probably be out in the second round. like that's what I mean, that they're frauds. Like to anybody that thinks I'm being disrespectful, I said the same thing about the Commanders. Like they're frauds too. Like I said the same thing about the Bills, and they proved me right. Like when I call your team a fraud, I said this about the 49ers, and they made the Super Bowl, and Morgan was laughing at me all the way to the bank. And so were a lot of 49ers fans. And then they choked in the Super Bowl, revealing themselves for the front-running frauds that FRF, front-running frauds that I called them, right? So a lot of y'all were saying the same thing. But I'm telling you, this is a fraud. This is a team of good players, but they're frauds. Like they are the biggest thing for the Vikings if they make it to the Super Bowl is the same thing that the 49ers had. You have a quarterback that is not experienced. I won't even say experienced. Cannot outbox. Let me just say it like this: will not be able to outbox the two-headed, or in this case, three-headed monster. Just in case the worst thing happens to the Chiefs or the Ravens, will not be able to outbox Patrick Mahomes. Will not be able to outbox Lamar Jackson, and will not be able to outbox Josh Allen. This is what I mean. If you are a team in the NFC, that is what you're looking at. Do I have a quarterback who could outbox the three-headed, the trio of Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Josh Allen? And there's only one quarterback in the NFC that can say that they've outboxed at least 2 out of 3 of those guys, because the Eagles haven't played the Ravens yet. So 2 out of 3 of those guys, he could, y'all can say what y'all want about Jalen Hurts, but we've seen the evidence that he can outbox and outplay both of those players. So, you can say what you want, but he's earned that money. Sam Darnold is not that quarterback. Neither is Jordan Love. That's what I'll say about that. Jordan Love is up and coming, but none of those, like, if you are not the Eagles, if you're the 49ers, if you're the Vikings, if you're the Seahawks, your question, if the best thing happens to you and you make the Super Bowl, is, do I have that quarterback that can outbox Patrick Mahomes, that can outbox Lamar Jackson, that can outbox Josh Allen, even though I don't believe Josh Allen will ever see a Super Bowl while he's in the AFC? Can you do that? And there's not many people out. There's not many quarterbacks outside of Philadelphia that can say that. And the only quarterback that can say that was watching Jalen Hurts on Sunday. so I am of the mindset that that's what it is for any team that's not the Eagles.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, look, you can look at me like that all you want, but you and a lot of other people in our profession were boosting them 49ers, and when they choked in the Super Bowl,
they got to the Super Bowl. They got there.
Well, you know what I say. It doesn't matter. If you get to the game, you better win.
only one team can win.
I know. And if you get there, you better win.
All right, so let's talk about the top teams in the NFL. Speaking of that Super Bowl last year, I think the Chiefs are the undeniable top team. It doesn't seem to matter how poorly one sector of their team plays. The other sectors of their team pick it up. You
or the
know,
whole team like last week.
yeah. I mean, one person goes out, Rasheed Rice goes out, fine. Travis Kelsey is a 29-year-old Travis Kelsey and not a 35-year-old Travis Kelsey all of a sudden. They're so well coached that they're just so prepared for every situation, and it's giving vibes of Patriots early 2000s where the regular season just doesn't matter and they just know they'll be in the playoffs, and then that's when they'll really turn it on. um they look incredible. I mean, the Ravens with Derrick Henry, now they got that run game going. They don't make stupid mistakes. They are going to be tough to beat. Those are probably my top two teams right now. The Lions do look really good.
Yeah, yeah.
Those are probably my top three teams right now.
So for me, I'm going to say the Chiefs. I'm going to say the Ravens, and I've got to begrudgingly say the Buccaneers, even though I think that they're frauds too. I don't think Baker Mayfield, as he's proven, can get you very far. I mean, he's held up by that defense. I think that you kind of saw it when the Eagles started making their second half run that they always make, and the pressure started getting to him. And like I said, there's a couple of front running fraud teams in the NFL, and there are a lot of teams like that. So I think the Ravens, the 49ers, and the Buccaneers are like the three best teams as of right now. And I got to give some love to your hometown Commanders, just because Jaden Daniels. I mean, Cliff Kingsbury might get a coaching job with the way he's coordinating Jaden Daniels. Don't know if it's Jaden Daniels or is it Cliff Kingsbury. But I'm of the mindset that that's your top four right now with the Eagles and 49ers and 5 and 6. But I just am of the mindset that I think that most of that will come down. I think the Buccaneers will come down eventually. I think that they are the best team in the NFC South, but that's not really saying much because there's nothing in the NFC South. I think that the Vikings look great right now, and we didn't even talk about them. And they've of these teams that are undefeated, they've kind of looked the best out of all of them. And I'm of the mindset that I think that says a lot about the Vikings right there that you didn't even mention them. so I am of the mindset that the Chiefs will be they'll be coming down very soon now that Rashee Rice is down. I just think that the injuries are now starting to get to them. You're not going to have Pacheco maybe until the playoffs. Rashee Rice, he's done. Like the Chiefs aren't saying it, but I mean it was clearly his MCL, ACL. What happened to him seemed very familiar to Eagles fans as to what happened to Carson Wentz. Right now, unlike Carson Wentz, Rashee Rice wasn't able to finish and score a touchdown on a bad knee. But I'm of the mindset that Rashee Rice is done. Pacheco, for all intents and purposes, is done until the playoffs. So I think it'll be coming down very soon for the Chiefs, but they're still a top team. Like I said, when you have the guy QB, and you don't have many teams with quarterbacks who can outbox him. Patrick Mahomes can lead the league in interceptions, but still win because he's Patrick Mahomes. So, I'm of the mindset that that's your top four, that's your top six right there for me. It's the not the Vikings. It's the Chiefs. It's the Ravens in top two. Then I'd probably put the Vikings, Buccaneers, Commanders, Eagles, 49ers. You could probably flip that, but that's your top seven right there. And I just think that for those teams, the fact that the Eagles and 49ers, it won't get any worse for them, and they're both still 2-2, should concern you if you're the Vikings, if you're the Bucks. Like that, all you need to do is start doing what those teams will start doing and start choking. And the Eagles and 49ers will be right there. And the Cowboys didn't even play this week, so we don't have to worry about them. But moving right along to our football game tomorrow. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers versus the Atlanta Falcons TNF preview. So for me, I think this will be probably one of the best TNFs of the year. And that's to me, I think the Ravens and Chiefs game, it was okay, but it wasn't the best representation of a Thursday night football game. Obviously, that wasn't TNF, that was NBC. But for all intents and purposes, it was a game on a Thursday night, so it was a Thursday night football game. I think this will probably be of the early matchups the best Thursday night football game, just because I think that the Falcons have a good enough defense that they can press Baker Mayfield. I don't think that he'll be able to do, especially with a defensive mind and Raheem Morris. I don't think he will be able to get like 8-yard completions to Mike Evans and Chris Godwin like what was happening because the Eagles were playing 10 yards deep, worrying about the deep ball instead of the slants. So I think when that doesn't happen, Baker Mayfield won't be able to do what he's been doing. Then they'll have to rely on their run game. And I think the Buccaneers will probably come back down to earth. They'll start revealing themselves to be the frauds that they are, and I just think that the Falcons. Then for the Falcons, you just need to believe, like I do, that Kirk Cousins is better than Baker Mayfield. Now, that's not saying much, but Kirk Cousins is better than Baker Mayfield. So I think the Falcons should be able to pull off an upset as long as they use Bijan Robinson the way Saquon Barkley and Derrick Henry have been used over the last few weeks. I think that this should be a Falcons victory. I would say, that's what really matters. Which running back dominates this game? Which receivers stand up? Does Kyle Pitts stand up in Atlanta? Big time game for them. But I think that it'll be a close game. I say 23-20 Falcons.
I'm going with Tampa Bay. I think that Baker's still looking really good. I think that Tampa Bay just seems to mesh with me better than Atlanta does. Kyle Pitts got 0 receptions last week. I have zero faith in Kyle Pitts. I have him on my fantasy team, and he has been benched. He is terrible, and I am sick of having to look at 0 points every week from Kyle Pitts. So, I think that Tampa Bay is gonna win this one. I do think it's gonna be tight, though. I think it's gonna be a low scoring game, though. I'm thinking like literally like 14-21. I think it's gonna be really low scoring, kind of a defensive battle on that end. And off of that game, we're gonna move forward and look at the rest of the NFL slate this weekend. Some intriguing games. I'll kind of go through some of them. I think that
Hold on. You go ahead and talk. I'm about to.
I think that the ones that I'm really interested in are the Bills Texans, big gunslinging quarterbacks from CJ Stroud and Josh Allen. And it'll be interesting to see Diggs play his former team. That's always, especially with all the beef or not beef or whatever you want to say has been going on the last couple weeks with Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. Ravens Bengals. I know that the Bengals haven't looked extraordinarily great this season, but that matchup always seems to produce a good game. So I'm excited for that game. Looking down the rest of it, Sunday night game, Cowboys Steelers. The Steelers look really good, and the Cowboys, if they can get a game going, look good. It's a pretty historic matchup. These teams have played a ton. Old, big, huge fan bases. I think it'll be a good game, and then I actually think the Monday night game, Saints Chiefs, will be a pretty good game as well.
Yeah, I think we're in agreement. I think that Seahawks Giants game will be interesting to see. If the Seahawks will have a game where they actually look dominant. Even though they did look dominant on Monday, I just think that I need to see more from Geno Smith.
Yeah.
I have Walker on my fantasy team, so I loved what he did on Monday. That Washington Cleveland game I think is going to be interesting, just because again, Jaden Daniels gets a chance, especially now that the Eagles are on the bye week, to actually be seen by people in big cities in the Northeast. So would love to see that. I want to see this New England this battle of who's going to get Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter and Miami and New England. I would love to see. I love to see. I think that's going to be interesting to see which of these teams sucks less. Indianapolis and Jacksonville, I think is going to be interesting because whoever loses this game will probably be fired. I know that the Colts' coach is probably safe, but I think Dougie P might be looking for a job soon. 0-4. I think if it's between Trevor Lawrence and Dougie P, that Dougie P won't be there much longer. And I say that as a huge fan. Houston, Buffalo, I agree with. Baltimore, Cincinnati, always a good game. I think this Carolina Chicago game too. I think crazily, I know that people have been knocking Caleb Love, but he's been getting better and better every game that he's played. So I know Jaden Daniels is knocking people out, but it takes time. So I'm of the mindset that Chicago Carolina game will be good too. Um, these games are when Morgan, when the big time teams are off, these games where you get other teams that you don't usually see wind up being good because I think they know, the Eagles are off, so we get to be on Fox and CBS instead of just being on our locals. So
Yeah.
that's where I'm at with it. Yeah. Do you have anything to add to that?
I don't. I think we're ready to move into
Well,
college football. Oh,
before we get there, I do have one question. I know you're not prepared for this, but I kind of hinted at it. What do you think about the Jaguars being 0-4? Is Dougie P's job on the line, or do you think that?
yeah. I mean, I think especially with I think that everybody is really frustrated with Trevor Lawrence. I don't think he may, it might be a I'm trying to think if him or Bryce Young might end up being a worse first pick. But I think probably Trevor Lawrence will end up being not necessarily the worst of the two picks, because I just think that quarterback class in general wasn't amazing.
I
But
mean, Bryce Young still has time. I'm not
Bryce Young still has time, but
Bryce
he
Young
also
went to a
has
terrible,
so
more
much work.
terrible organization.
Bryce has so much more working against him with his height, this, that. Whereas, and he wasn't Mr. Perfect in college. He was great in college, but he was not what Trevor Lawrence was in college or was thought to be.
I mean, he was
So
him in college. He did win a national title. Let's not take that
no,
away.
he did it. But I'm saying he wasn't like generational, once in a
Right.
lifetime talent. Like
He
it
wasn't.
wasn't
He
consensus
wasn't.
number 1 overall pick.
Yeah,
Like
he wasn't. He was a Deshaun Watson or Tim Tebow type dominant in college. I see what you're saying.
No. And Trevor Lawrence was just supposed to be that, the golden boy. And, I think that Doug Peterson, I'm not saying he's the perfect coach. I'm saying I feel for him in a way that I think he's in a really sucky situation where what does he do? Right? Like, does he bench Trevor and put someone else in? But that's not, that's so probably, I'm assuming, far above his call to make that, because again, when you bench a quarterback like that, it's kind of like we're done, and they just paid him. So what do you do? Do you fight through this? And maybe Doug Peterson is like, F it, I'm ready to be gone from here. Um
Yeah, I mean, when he got hired, because you remember we had this conversation on this podcast, I said that was a terrible move for him because Jacksonville, and I know that there are some Jaguar fans that both of us know personally. Jacksonville is where you go to die if you're a quarterback and a good coach. Like I am of the mindset that Doug Peterson, and this is no disrespect, he won a Super Bowl for the Philadelphia Eagles. He did the impossible that most coaches couldn't do. And I just think that he's done in by being in that Andy Reid, that stubborn tree. And I just think that he shouldn't be there. I think Chad Kahn is a terrible owner. I think that it is being proven. I think that Jacksonville is a organization that's built to win, but just doesn't have the owner, the coach, or the talent. Like I think that Doug Peterson might end up being a Mark Jackson. I hate saying this I feel like I say this a lot about coaches in every sport who get you there, but aren't good enough to get you to the next level, that they're a Mark Jackson. But I think that that's very apt for right now. That I think that Trevor Lawrence will not be benched. I think it'll end up being Doug Peterson, and I think that they'll give it a try with another coach. But I think that Trevor Lawrence probably needs to start looking for the exit signs because I mean I don't know who Chad Cotton is going to prefer. He's got a big, beautiful new stadium coming very soon that he strong armed. You want to talk about strong arming a city, strong arm Jacksonville into paying for. So somebody's not going to be there when that stadium opens. And I think it might end up being Doug Peterson. But I think you are right that Trevor Lawrence is not proving that he's deserving of that money. And obviously you are what your price says you are, and he has a great agent, but I think he needs to take that leap very, very soon. That Doug Peterson won't be there, and he'll be staring at a coach that'll be like, yeah, I'm not married to you, so you better get it right, or I'll be trading you. So
It's fair. Yeah.
yeah,
All right,
yeah.
now let's move on to college. Let's talk first about one of the bigger upsets of the week.
I mean,
Um,
isn't that really an upset?
Colorado beats UCF. I think the big storyline of this game was kind of all the pregame talk about Travis Hunter and he's gonna crumble in the Florida Heat. Meh, 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 meh. And then he just went out there and played like 92 snaps, over 100 yards. Could have kept playing, but Dion took him out. So, um, I don't know how he is not the clear Heisman winner as of now. But
I mean,
he's an incredible player and he is like single-handedly almost saving Colorado in these moments. But um
I mean,
I
the Heisman is a QB award. Like
I
Travis.
know, but if they really want to say that it's not a QB award, this is the year to give it to a non QB. Because there aren't any, like, the QBs aren't like.
I mean, you can't say that. Cam Ward is killing it in Miami.
I know, but like he's not. I feel like every sports conglomerate isn't talking about him, whereas like what Travis Hunter is doing, people like don't do that. You know what I mean?
No, I agree with you, but I just don't think that they'll do that because he's not. He's tearing it up, but he's not the clear number one. I'm of the mindset that, like I say all the time, Colorado. The theme continues with these football teams that we've been talking about. Colorado found the run game, and I think that was more of what helped them against UCF than anything else. Because I think if they didn't have a run game, Shador Sanders would have been sacked. I'm of the mindset that, like I said last week, Colorado should go on a run. It's not like they have any hard teams. They should be able to be bowl eligible. But I just think that they now have the 4-1. They've now won the same amount of games that they won last year before it all crumbled. So we'll see if they can handle this pressure, this newfound pressure of being 2 games away from bowl eligibility. But I'm of the mindset that, it looks great for Colorado right now. They found a run game, big evolution for them. And I think that, but I think that when the pressure gets on, when they get into a bowl game, when somebody actually game plans for Travis and Shador, um, I'm of the mindset that it's going to be interesting to see what they do when that happens. Now, they shouldn't have any real big competition in the Big 12 besides, like I said, Kansas. Um, they've already beaten Baylor, Kansas State. Like, they have some games coming up. But, I think I'm gonna be the opposite of what I was last year when it came to Colorado. I think I'm gonna be optimistic and say as long as their offensive line holds up, that they should make a bowl game. Now, will they win a bowl game? Probably not, but they should make one. And I'm on the mindset that Shador Sanders and Travis Hunter are basically competing with each other to see which one of them is going to be the number one pick and which one of them is going to be the number two pick. But for Colorado, great. You did what you were supposed to do. Now we move on to see what happens next.
Yeah, so I don't love a lot of the games this week. There's only one top 25 matchup. That's Missouri, number 9 Missouri against number 25 Texas A&M, which isn't a great matchup in itself. But there are some interesting games. Obviously, Auburn, Georgia will be a highly watched game. Just that SEC rivalry.
Auburn is going to get destroyed.
Yeah, but I mean that's most of these games this week. There's not. I'm looking through them again just to make sure that I'm not crazy. But
with the way Georgia lost, I feel sorry for Auburn.
yeah,
like
I mean there really are honestly, in my opinion, no good games this week. If you're going to take a week off of college football, this one might be the week for you. Or if you want to get real into Sunbelt football, watch JMU. We got a big game against UL Monroe, who are 3-1 and we're 4-0. So we're hoping to, JMU is the spread is JMU -17. So hopefully we can pull that one out. But yeah,
That's true.
there really isn't a ton of good stuff in my opinion. I
I
mean,
think I think this Penn State UCLA game will be good.
yeah, I honestly, if you really want to know what games are going to be good or are expected to be good, if you go and you look at what the spread is. I mean, most of these games are over 20-point spreads. Oregon's favored by 23. Penn State's favored by 27. So the UNLV Syracuse game,
Yeah, I was about to say that
UNLV,
might be the best. That might be the best game on the slate because that's probably going to
yeah,
be a close game.
yeah.
No?
Missouri, Texas A&M, the spread is only 2 points. So a few of those. I mean, Ohio State playing Iowa, they're favored by over 20. Georgia's favored by 24 over Auburn.
That should be higher. It should
Yeah.
be 30. It should be 30 because Georgia
Um,
doesn't. The one thing Georgia doesn't do is lose back to back games, and if you know they're going to run it down Auburn's throat. Like I,
yeah,
that's
the highest spread actually of the weekend is Boise State over Utah State, with Boise State expected to win by 27 points. So, um, again, not a great weekend for college football. If you're going to take it off, go out with your family, do some fall stuff this weekend. Next week's games are significantly better. Next week we got Oregon State, Ohio State, Penn State, USC, Alabama, South Carolina, Texas, Oklahoma.
we're getting to the middle part of the college football season where
Yeah.
all
Ole
these
Miss, LSU. We got some good games next week. So take this weekend, spend it with your family, and then come back next week and watch some real good college football.
go to Midnight Madness if you're a college student or an alum that gets those tickets. Go to Midnight Madness or whenever.
Yeah, do something fun like that, you know. So moving on, we're gonna move to the WNBA playoffs. I'm sure everybody knows by now because it's all anybody has talked about is that
We called
Indiana.
it. We called it
Yeah,
last
I mean
week.
we knew this was gonna happen. Indiana Fever was knocked out of the playoffs. You know, I'm sure to the begrudging of the WNBA because I'm sure their ratings have gone down, which I hate to see, but unfortunately that's what happens when you have one megastar and the league lets that happen. But you know, the Indiana
I mean,
Fever was knocked out. And let's like be realistic about this. Like they were supposed to be knocked out. You know, they were the way lower seed. They're playing a 1 seed. They were supposed to be knocked out. That's what happens. And it's not a bad thing.
they were
The other team
always
was
gonna.
better.
They were always going to lose to Connecticut or the Liberty. It
The
just was a
Sun
matter.
the Sun was better. And
Yeah,
that's fine.
yeah. They were
And
always going to do that, and I hate the whining that's going on.
yeah, there was no conspiracy to get her out. There was no bad reffing. There was no this or that. No, Connecticut is a better team.
I
And they
mean,
were expected to beat them.
this is one of the topics before we get to the other ones where I'll say this. This is one of the back to back topics where I'll say like again, I'll say what I said a few months ago. Like mainstream sports media is not prepared to adequately and fairly cover this sport because most of them do not cover it. They're not extreme fans like me. They don't know that the WNBA has a best of 3 format. I think it's dumb. This really can get to the next question. I think the Fever were kind of done in by this change that the WNBA did, and everybody except for the NBA is experimenting with the playoffs. The NBA did this back when Morgan and I were younger, where they had best of 3 in the first round of the playoffs, and they did 3, 5, 7. It never made sense then. It doesn't make sense for the WNBA. For NBA, the NBA has it right. So does MLB, except for during the wild card playoffs. Like if you are not a football, it should be best of 7. I don't care. Best of 7. If you can't win 4 straight games,
I am okay with best of 5 for the lower rounds. I am okay with that, but I hate best of 3. I always hate best of 3. Best of 3 sucks.
and I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
Again, best of and again, I am the only reason that I will say that I am okay with best of 3 or the best of 5 is because I am if you've ever if you ever had the opportunity and privilege of having your team win the Stanley Cup, it feels like a fucking marathon to get to the end. It is so many games, especially if your team was like mine and went to game 7 almost every single time. You really feel like you are out there playing with the players. I am okay with those early series being a little bit shorter. Not everybody agrees with me on that, but I think that you have to have at least a best of 5.
I do remember when the Flyers were in the World Series, were in the Stanley Cup, and it felt like you did die with them. So I fully understand what you're saying, but yeah, it should be best of 5. And I say this as somebody, as Morgan knows, I called it that the Indiana Fever fans were abusive to their opposing teams, and it's come out now. But I just think that it should be best of 5. I think, especially in basketball, that you should have a chance. Each team should have a chance to host at least one game on their home floor. And I feel like Indiana didn't have a chance to have a snowball's chance of winning a series against Connecticut or the New York Liberty. But I think it would have been better to watch, Alyssa and them try and beat them in Indiana.
And if
it would have happened anyway, but I think
I'm wrong about this, because I could be. But if Indiana had won that second game, would it have gone to Indiana for the third game?
Yeah.
See, that's also stupid. If you're going to do it like that, then do the first game 1 in Indiana, and then fly to Connecticut for game 2. And if you need a game 3, stay in Connecticut, in my opinion.
I mean, the WNBA, obviously they have a great playoff format, but it should be at least a best. I agree with Morgan, either a best of 5 or a best of 7 in every. The final should obviously be best of 7. But if after you win the first round, it's a best of 7 throughout the rest of the series, then it should just be 3 rounds, best of 7. And my only other criticism of the WNBA, please put your games later. Because why are you going up against a 1 o'clock slate that includes the Philadelphia Eagles, and you have the Connecticut Sun and them, a Northeast team? No one in Philly and New York or in Boston were watching that game. Like, you have the
sometimes
Patriots,
like they don't
Eagles.
Want people to watch their games. I get that sometimes with NHL, we'll do stupid crap like that. MLB sometimes. Like, I get it during the regular season, it's fine, whatever. But like, come on. Like,
right. Like,
what are you doing? It's your playoffs. Put them on a day where there's no other sports. Give yourselves a fighting chance. Put them on a Wednesday. I know nobody wants to watch whatever, but put them on a Wednesday. Realistically, you know what I mean? Like, put on a day where people are craving sports.
Yeah,
do Tuesday, Wednesday.
I was mad because I only could catch the Lynx game Sunday night, because by the time the Eagles lost, I'll just be honest with y'all. Like, I watch SNF, but I switch channels because after the Eagles play, I'm just going to be honest with y'all. I'm a football fan, but not an extreme one that's watching all these games like some of y'all. Like, I can only take but so much of football, because it's literally the same thing for 4 quarters. You're either watching an offensive explosion or a defensive struggle. And me personally, after I sit through 3 hours of going up and down with the Eagles, like, I'm just done and don't want to see it anymore. So, like, I'm looking for something else to watch after the Eagles played at 1, 4, 8 o'clock. So I only can take but so much of football. But for those of you like Morgan who live and die with it, like, y'all are great. But like, no, like, I cannot.
All right, so let's move on from this. Let's move on to the New York Liberty have a commanding 2-0 lead over the Las Vegas Aces. I don't know if we necessarily saw this coming. I think that we said that the Liberty was a really good team, but I think we also both were in the mindset that even though the Liberty were a really good team, that the Aces still weren't going to be able to pull it out. Obviously, it's not done. Series is not over yet, but
it's not over until Asia Wilson says it's over. But it's looking pretty old. It's looking, obviously, it's a best of 7. So we've seen this in the NBA. We've seen it in the NHL. We've seen it in the MLB. Just because you're up 2-0 now doesn't mean you won't end up crying later. But like,
that's what they say in hockey. 2-0 is the most dangerous lead in hockey.
Yeah, so when Sabrina Ionescu is hitting half-court threes, I think it's time to call it a night, and that's what the Aces did. But I think now that the series is shifting to Las Vegas, that they should at least be able to split it should be at least 3-1 within the next 2 days because I think that Asia Wilson will have her say. But I just think that the Aces have always, like, we all have thought that the Aces would turn it on in the playoffs, and they sort of did that in the first round, but they haven't done it yet in the second round. So I think that, they should at least be able to pull one of these games out, and then
I
switch.
don't think they're going to get swept. I mean,
Yeah.
the Liberty look really good right now, and I would put, if I was a betting person, I would put money on the Liberty, but I don't think that the Aces are going to get swept. Asia
Yeah.
will at least come out and have an absolute takeover game.
Yeah, I think this is Liberty in 5 or 6, but I mean, I'm of the mindset that the Aces could pull it out in 7. We don't know, but I'm of the mindset that this is a finals rematch, so we will see what happens. But this is not looking good for the Aces. Let's just say it like that. But I think it'll turn around soon. Moving right along to the other one. The Lynx and your Connecticut Sun, Morgan, are tied. That was a great game yesterday. Nafisa Collier is proving why she's the DPOY. And again, I don't know why you don't talk about her more. Why am I talking about her more than you?
Well, here's the thing. You got to either choose the UConn girl or the Connecticut team, and I feel like I've chosen the Connecticut team over Collier. She's great. I mean, she's incredible to watch. She's all over the court. She's somehow everywhere at once. I could not imagine playing against her. It's got to be incredibly frustrating. But I think I could see this series going to 7. I think Connecticut are going to be able to pull it out in the end, but I think they're going to have to fight for it.
Yeah, I think this definitely has the chance of going 7, but I just think that I don't know if I trust, even though I like the Sun, I don't know if I trust them in a close series. I just think that there's too much stuff that can go wrong with them. And I just think that I hope I'm wrong. Obviously, we all want to see Connecticut Sun Aces or Connecticut Sun Liberty. But I think that if there's anybody that's going to mess up the plans, it'll be Nafisa Collier and the Lynx. I've talked about them. Everybody knows I've been the main booster for the Lynx. They should.
Would that be like the closest 2 teams to play in a championship?
What, the Lynx and the Connecticut and New York?
And
probably.
Liberty?
Yeah, probably, because it's been the Aces and insert team here these last.
No, but I mean like of any sport ever.
Probably.
I guess the Subway Series, so no.
Yeah. But yeah, in the World Series, yeah, but probably in basketball, probably. Outside of the Philadelphia, New York, Boston thing, but even that's kind of.
But I think that's got to be farther than.
Yeah, Philadelphia, New York is probably like the closest comparison to that, or Boston, New York.
All right, we got one more topic.
Yes, the most controversial. I'm gonna let you go first on this because I don't want to dog pile. But the WNBA calls out USA Today's Christine Brennan, a lot of people's journalism shiro, for biased questioning. So for those of you that have not been paying attention to this, because like Morgan, I say the sports beat stuff is forever, especially with this Caitlin Clark adjacent stuff. So those who, just to give some background here, Christine Brennan, again, she covers women's sports. I want to be respectful here, but she's writing to get the short version of what this is about. She's doing a book on Caitlin Clark's journey. We don't know if it's a biography or autobiography, but she's basically doing a book around Caitlin Clark and basically why women's sports has become it because of her, right? And so she's been asking these players Caitlin Clark questions when Caitlin Clark questions really don't exist or shouldn't be about this. You probably saw it in the exit interview where she was asking, I think it was a UConn player, right? On their team, or was it a Seattle, or was it somebody who they either played in the Big Ten or at UConn, about what it was like to go from competing against Caitlin Clark to playing with her as a teammate. A completely, innocuous question to people who just see the clip, but it's completely inappropriate because it took place during an exit interview. And apparently this is not the first time. I've seen a lot of journalists here in Philly and around, because journalists talk, complaining about this, that she's been reaching out to random people who have nothing to do with the WNBA, as who have covered Caitlin Clark either in college or in high school, asking them about what that's like. And we don't know if she's actually scored an interview with Caitlin Clark. I'm assuming she has because she's,
well, so I think so. So I think here's kind of my issues with it is that
right.
no one
That's fine.
really seems to know if this is just her creation, a labor of love, I guess, that she's made up. If Caitlin Clark has asked her to do this, if this is something they are doing in collaboration. I know that ESPN is doing, I think, a docu or at Netflix or someone's doing a docu series on Caitlin Clark. So
Right.
there is a lot.
That was from they're doing like you're talking about the Caitlin Clark Last Dance thing where
Yeah. So there is some stuff happening about her, and there is probably people that want to read or see this kind of stuff. So first off, again, this is once again people asking Caitlin Clark to open up her mouth and say something. Is this something that she is like in on? I don't know. So I think that's the first question that needs to be answered. Second of all, there's a time and there's a place for everything. I find no issue in a biographer reaching out to sources. Hello, I'm writing a book on Caitlin Clark. You covered her in college, blah, 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 blah. Whatever. Reaching out, giving them the opportunity to respond at their leisure via email. Here's my phone number. Give me a call if you would like to do an interview, blah, blah, blah. Same with players. You played against her. You played with her, teammates, whatever. That is the way you do it. You do not ambush people when they are stuck in a media day that has nothing to do with Caitlin Clark.
Right.
Again, it's nothing against Caitlin Clark. It's not being mean about Caitlin Clark. It's that these people have their own lives, their own stories, their own media things to be told. And
why you
by asking them these questions, sorry, my computer keeps falling. By asking them these questions, you're putting them in a weird situation because their mindset is they're not thinking about Caitlin Clark in that moment. So then they look like the asshole because they're like, well, why are you asking me that question? There's just so many things that are stupid about it, I guess. Like, I'm not saying that she doesn't need to, the book is a bad thing, but I'm just saying there's a time and place for everything. And I wish that she was handling it a little bit more professionally, I guess is a nice way to put it.
Yeah, I think I agree. I said, like, I obviously Morgan might look up to Christine Brennan a little more than I do, obviously, as women in sports journalism. But like, I also think that she's a great writer. I think she's done a great thing. But I think that you're kind of a victim of bias here. Not Morgan, but Christine, because she was one of the people, along with Shannon Sharp and Stephen A. Smith, pushing the whole Caitlin Clark should be on the Olympics team because its popularity. Look, those Olympics things will be right off the charts. So I think she's kind of a victim of what I have said, and I think I've coined it. We should just clip it because this will save us a lot of time of me saying, again, mainstream sports media is not prepared adequately to cover women's sports and megastars like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese adequately and fairly. And this is one of the prime examples. This is a reporter who both of us look up to who should know better. Why are you asking people? Why are you asking somebody who just had their rookie year end? Very, very sad. They're in an exit interview. Obviously, you get all random behind questions during the exit interview. What was your feeling like? How does it feel? What are you going to work on? That's stuff that you expect. You don't expect to be getting a question from somebody who's a legend in sports journalism asking you about Caitlin Clark after you just lost. This is supposed to be an interview about you. It's not supposed to be about Caitlin Clark. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Again, nothing wrong with reach out to sources. I've talked to people who said that it's just been the way she did it. She's been hassling people about it. Who knows what she's been doing? Obviously, there's two sides of the story. But the fact that USA Today, again, in journalism and media, sometimes optics are terrible. You already have somebody who is basically, for lack of a better term, a professional, but a Caitlin Clark stan, an admitted one, right? She is a stan of Caitlin Clark. And then you have one of your PR people talking about how, Christine Brennan's great. She's doing everything ethically. It's all above board is basically what they said. But then the person who is writing that overlapped with Caitlin Clark is an Iowa alum. Again, optics are terrible. So now you have The WNBPA is basically calling y'all out, saying bias questioning, bias journalism. Basically, what Morgan said is a time and place for everything. These players are made available to ask questions about their team, their players, not about basically what the WNBPA is saying is basically what we say. Everything is not about Caitlin Clark and women's basketball. It's not. But y'all are trying to make things about Caitlin Clark that have nothing to do with her. And I think Christine, like Morgan said, more better than I could. There's a time and place for everything. And you just, we don't know. Again, we don't know if she scored that interview with Caitlin Clark. It's probably happened now or it's going to happen. But there's just a time and place for everything, and there's just the fact that the WNBPA has to call you out, and you're an Emmy Award winning journalist who's on CNN, who's doing a lot of other things. Like, you should know better, and you know that there are ethics questions here. And now you're just adding on to it with these players, because now they're saying no to a legendary sports journalist, and now you're spinning it. It's a whole thing, and now the WNBPA has to come out and basically say it, and you've got a lot of people writing stuff without knowing it. Again, I'll say what I said before. Mainstream sports media is not adequately prepared. And I don't know if a class will solve this. I don't know if they just need to hire us to do it. I really don't know what will solve this, but they are not prepared to adequately cover these players fairly.
Cool. Yeah, I agree.
And moving
All
right
right.
on to,
We have reached our shout out seg. I'm gonna give a shout out to myself. Youth, anybody who thought like living life was hard, just like regularly, or like working out, or going to work, put a baby inside you, and it makes it a whole lot harder. So little everyday tasks are a little bit harder, but every day I'm proud of myself for getting up and doing what I got to do. So I mean, that seems silly, but shout out seg to myself. I know I've been shouting out all my friends that are getting married. So last weekend it was Aaron and Kyle had a beautiful wedding in Manhattan. We loved getting to see them. This weekend we're heading down to Tampa to celebrate my friends Casey and Jocelyn. We're really excited to see their wedding. It's going to be beautiful. It's at a art museum on the water. It's going to be gorgeous. So we're super excited. Wish that I could have a cocktail at these weddings, but it's enough just to be there celebrating them. Kylan?
Yeah, I think so. For me, I'm going to echo this again. If you missed the segment earlier, Morgan just kind of previewed it. She's expecting a girl in March, correct? So
yes,
congrats to her again. Did it again. But for those of you that missed it, yes, her and Dan expecting a child in March. Right around the time of March Madness. That'll be interesting.
We actually were looking today, and we were like, okay, so we want her to come like a week early, because that's right when the first four started.
Yo, oh man, but yeah, shout out to Joel Embiid. For those of you that didn't know, Joel Embiid got a contract. He did something very, very nice recently, where he held an event on Friday for the kids of Philadelphia to really shout out his appreciation for Philly, not far from where I live. So shouts out to Joel Embiid and the Sixers organization for continuing their commitment to the city, regardless of how you feel about this arena that's about to happen anyway, whether you wanted to or not. It's great to see their commitment. Shout out to the Sixers organization. Also, they're sponsoring and doing school and book bag drives, and Joel Embiid signed an Olympic jersey for a school in Camden that really needs some help. So shouts out to them for their commitment in the Jersey, Philadelphia area. And I believe that is, I'm trying to think. I think that's it on my end for shouts out. But shouts out to all of you doing real great work. Shouts out to the Philadelphia Phillies getting that 2 seed, getting that bye, and avoiding the Braves for the first, and the Mets for the first and the second round. So shouts out to them, because that's about as much baseball coverage as I'm gonna give y'all. But Red October, you a Yankees or a Mets fan? What is it, Blue or White October for y'all?
I'm a Nationals fan, but Dan is a very, very big Yankees fan. So we are Yankees fans in this house.
Okay. All right, so moving right along to he's not him, she's not her, and they aren't them. You want to go first, or should I?
Sure, I don't really have a ton. My favorite, he's not him. Aaron Rodgers is back again. He can't take any blame for anything ever. He um just shut up, take some blame. It's your fault too. It's not only the receivers. So he just drives me a little bit nuts. So she's not her. I do not have one. Um, the ladies have been nice and good recently.
Well, I
I
mean,
haven't. Hmm?
you just had one served up on a plate, and Christine Brennan.
No, I know. But we talked about her. She, you know, I just do better, Brennan. Do better, please. And then they aren't them. So I've kind of been going, back and forth with the way to kind of talk about this, and it's kind of what you said about media not being ready to support women in sports. And I I wish that there was a way to like boost all of the smaller sports in these schools. And I know they don't make any money, but I saw something today that said it costs $0 to support women in sports. Like it really does for these big schools. It costs $0 to put out a tweet or post an Instagram post. So I just wish that that was more part of their rotation, posting about some of these smaller sports, men and women's, that we don't get to see all the time.
Mm-hmm. All right, I agree with that. So my they aren't them. Well, let me just start here. My he's not him. Shannon Sharp. I can't. Y'all probably saw Morgan saw what I shared on Facebook and Twitter earlier about his statement about Jalen Hurts, and I was just really flabbergasted why he was, basically saying that Jalen Hurts is not him. When he and a bunch of other people on his network and on Fox and on CBS let the boy in Buffalo slide for underachieving way worse than Jalen Hurts. And I know Morgan disagrees with me, but I just find it so funny that, Jalen Hurts, because he lost by, a bunch of points, got all this flack this week saying that he's not worth the money, he's not this, he's not that. Trevor Lawrence is 0-4. Why are y'all not talking about him? Or I'm sorry, 0-3. Joe Burrow is underachieving, worse than anybody thought. Nobody's talking about his buddy. But Jalen Hurts is missing Devontae Smith and AJ Brown. And somehow we're having a conversation where we're talking about the Eagles and talking about how everything's wrong with them. It's not just, sometimes these things are simple, right? He's missing AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and it looked horrible outside of Dallas Goedert and Saquon Barkley. I think we kind of understood that. It looked horrible against the Saints as well. Like, I don't think anybody was shocked that it looked horrible. But the fact that we got these pundits, these former players and others, using Jalen Hurts as evidence to why they shouldn't be paid or why he's not worth the money, when they don't do that for people who have never reached the Super Bowl yet in their career, didn't outduel the guy QB. Like, I am of the mindset that if we're gonna talk, we might as well be fair. That's what we do on this show. A lot of y'all might hate me for calling out Josh Allen and saying he's an underachiever, but I'm fair about it, right? If Jalen Hurts is gonna get flack for being a blowout, then the dude who lost by 6 points less than he did should totally get more flack. The dude who makes more money than Jalen Hurts should totally get more flack for not being good. And right now, I am of the mindset that Shannon Sharp gets paid a lot more money than I do to know what he's talking about, and the fact that we're more fair about this than somebody who makes way more money than us to talk about sports that Disney is paying a lot of money to be able to bring eyes to their sport. And he is out here talking about Jalen Hurts as if he's 0-4 and not 2-2. Like, I am of the mindset that there should be some respect given to quarterbacks who, there haven't been many who have outdueled Patrick Mahomes, who has been relatively good this year. Like, everybody talks about this man as if he, again, leading the league in interceptions when it's Patrick Mahomes. So I am of the mindset that if you're going to talk about a quarterback underachieving, then talk about it fairly and within context. So he's not him and Shannon Sharp. But I'm not done with ESPN. My day aren't them. Once again, is the college game day crew because I'm trying to be fair about this, but I'm really tired of seeing a college game day episode or seeing clips of a college game day episode. Moira probably saw this on Twitter because I was hopping mad about it on Saturday. Why are y'all dedicating time when you're at Alabama to talking about NIL? Yes, this UNLV situation with this quarterback who didn't get his money. He was promised 100,000, 150K, whatever it was. Didn't get it at UNLV. Decided I didn't get my money. I'm not playing. I'm going to redshirt. Totally within his rights. So I may hate it. Morgan may hate it. But it's within his rights to do it. He had the eligibility. They told him, they promised him something. And I love these people, College Game Day, Reese Davis and them. You get on air and you talk about how, he should play. He should make his commitments. You, Nick Saban, Pat McAfee, all y'all say that. But, correct me if I'm wrong to any of y'all who have contracts, right? If 2 weeks from now come and you don't have your paycheck, you working? So what are you talking about? So what are any of y'all talking about when you get on television making millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars and you getting up there and saying, oh, these kids should play, man. It's about the connection. You all sound like grandpas and grandmas complaining about these kids being on your lawn. Stop it. You don't show up on Saturday mornings for your health. You don't show up because you love the game. You show up because they are paying you to be there. And this quarterback and all these other players deserve to get their money. We live in a capitalistic society, not a socialistic society yet. So get your money. And if you don't get it, you shouldn't be there because no one else would. I don't show up to work for my health. Give me my money. And that's my day on them. Again, I'm so sick of saying this, but mainstream sports media is not adequately covered to not only cover women's sports correctly, but now that these college athletes are making money, they are not adequately equipped to cover things that people do every day. Seeing these college players decide, hey, I'm 18. I was promised $200,000 from Syracuse, UNLV, JMU. I didn't get it. That's why I'm here. I'm not playing. I can't complain about that. If I don't get my money, I'm not working either. So what are we doing here? That's it for me. She's not her. I don't have one. My favorite one in LSU doesn't play until next month. So she got time to get for me to step on her deck. So we'll see. But that I'm done. I went on a diatribe there, but I hope y'all understand.
All right, guys, that is it. A little over 2 hours, a little longer than we've been going recently, but there's a lot to talk about. So we will see you guys next week. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel.
And share.
And share. If you are looking for something to do this weekend, Friday, 3 p.m., I'll be sideline for UConn women's hockey. If you're looking for something to watch on Friday. So follow us on.
And after you're done watching Morgan do great on sidelines, Syracuse UNLV at 9:00.
There you go. Sounds like a perfect Friday to me. All right, guys. It was so lovely talking with you tonight, and we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.